representatives of these different groups. And by the way, I want to thank Representatives Duffy and Grossman, Representative Coonsey, all here from Franklin County. Thanks for coming and showing your support. All three of whom supported this resolution last December. But we wanted to have these member-driven groups here because that's really been the crux of this campaign. There really isn't a better way to communicate with Ohioans than through these organizations that they're part of. Certainly telling we have the Ohio Republican Party and Democratic Party both in place, but when these groups can communicate directly on their members on issues that are important to them, it's important and very helpful. The League of Women Voters, for example, has been outstanding in working this issue. I'm going to my 4th League of Women Voters meeting next week, as a matter of fact. So they've been outstanding. I got a little flyer in the bulletin at church at St. Charles Parish. So the Catholic bishops have stepped up to support this issue. And so when you have those independent contacts beyond the normal advertising, it's really been helpful. So I'll turn it over to Vern if there's any other comments, and I think we'll do questions.
No, we're ready for questions.
An Akron poll today says that almost 30% of voters still don't know enough about this to make a decision. Other than holding press conferences and giving out flyers, is there anything else in the game plan to get their attention between now and the election?
Yeah, I think there's kind of a couple elements to that. One is that this is a not to many a terribly interesting issue, certainly interesting to Vern and I. And certainly issue 3, who would have known that marijuana is more interesting than redistricting, but so that has taken away some of the public's interest. And that's not terribly surprising. And I think that's had an effect on our fundraising. So the answer to your question, Jim, one answer is that we are going to be starting a radio campaign all over the state of Ohio here within a couple of days. I'm not sure when exactly those are going to hit, but we've got our okay. So we are going to do that, and then of course, you know, I've sort of received support from this. My daughter's a CPA, so the CPAs are supporting sending out emails. So it's not a campaign where we're going to buy millions of dollars of TV. But you know, if the Democratic Party and the Republican Party both have this on their slate card, that's an effective way, we think, to communicate to voters. And in the end, I think if you have folks on both sides of the aisle, then people recognize it as a fairness issue.
Additionally, the ballot language is very positive. We tested it, the polls on it, and the transparency issue, the bipartisanship and fair districts concepts. We feel, the polls indicated that when people hear that, they tend to or inclined to support it. And so it's different than in other years where the language may have been confusing or maybe not representative totally of what both sides think it ought to be. But in this case, we don't have any organized opposition, and we have some very positive ballot language. So when people, even when they hear it the first time, they tend to be supportive of this issue.
I think of other issues, though, that there was no organized opposition. Everybody seemed to like it, like the judicial age limit that ended up failing. I mean, is there any concerns that voters are just going to either see this as, you know, a government push or just reject it just because they don't know what it is?
Well, thanks for bringing that one up, since that was my resolution. I appreciate the reminder. And frankly, when we passed this, and it was done sort of overwhelmingly, that's really what, as Vern and I discussed this in early January, that we had to have a campaign of some kind. We had to reach out to folks and couldn't simply expect, you know, just editorial pages and things like that. So, you know, you run the kind of campaign that you think you have, that you can run. And if, for example, in the judicial age resolution, probably if we'd reached out to many of the groups and asked for endorsement and support, if someone had done that, would have stood a better chance of passing. So that was certainly on my mind, and I think you know, we've run a pretty Spartan but effective campaign, and these groups representing many others have done, I think, a pretty good job.
Can you there's been a lot of infighting among consultants over who's gonna get paid what and who's gonna do what. It seems to me that a lot of the information on this issue is coming from the League of Women Voters and from Common Cause, not from Fair Districts for Ohio.
Well, I don't think there has been any infighting. I mean, Representative Sykes has been great to work with, so I'm a bit mystified, frankly, that why anybody would say that. And I think the League of Women Voters and Common Cause and others have done a great job communicating. They're one source of information, and it may be where that may be where you receive information or somebody in particular receives information. But, you know, as I said, I went over to my parents' house for dinner this weekend, and my mom came and said, hey, I got this, I read all about issue 1. Now I know she got her flyer at church. Some folks are going to hear from the Columbus Chamber, the Farm Bureau, the FOP, the AFL-CIO. You know, when organization with the breadth of membership and influence of the AFL-CIO steps forward, their members are going to listen to them, not necessarily to the League of Women Voters. And, you know, in terms of is the campaign poorly run, well, you know, I was campaign chairman for 6 years for the House. We probably raised every year $10 to $12 million and ran campaigns of 20 or 30 different campaigns, some of them $1.5 million. I have to tell you, a campaign that raises $250,000, there's not much to fight about or argue about. We did an initial buy of mailing to high-intensity voters in off-year elections. We're going to make a pretty substantial radio buy here. But after that, it's not, you know, there's not, the campaign essentially has been Representative Sykes and I asking folks to work this issue and then traveling the state editorial boards and other places.
We've had complete agreement on the dollars that we had, how they should be spent. There hadn't been much debate about how to spend the dollars. The issue has always been how many dollars we're going to have. And so we've run the campaign as strong as we can with the funds and resources that we have available to us.
So how much have you raised?
Between $250,000 and $300,000. There's some folks who just gave us a check yesterday, and they had to run it past their board, and that apparently took 2 months. So close to $300,000.
What are your polls showing so far?
Well, there's a number of polls, and we took kind of what we call the planning poll back in July, and it showed the issue winning, but the intensity wasn't where it should be. And then I think there's been a couple of follow-up polls, University of Akron and others. So we think I think I was quoted in one of the papers, we think it'll pass, but it's fragile. So we need your guys out there this weekend. So, or in 2 weeks.
We're cautiously optimistic.
Said that, say a few words.
So,
I had a question for Michael.
Sure.
I don't know if you want to step on. Usually they like you talking to the mic. But, you know, based on the report cards from the Ohio Chamber of Commerce, your members seem to get a lot of satisfaction out of the current makeup of the General Assembly. What are you telling your members as to why we should change the process for drawing these lines, considering that so many members currently have, you know, scores of close to 100% for the chamber, at least the majority members?
Sure. I think the issue for us is going back to this concept of fair, equitable, and representative. I mean, I think we can see that there have been numerous situations in the past where that just really hasn't been the case. And I think for everyone, we're trying to create the best democracy we can. And the idea being, let's make sure that we have these districts drawn in a way that enables voters to stay together, enables jurisdictions to stay together. I think that she's trying really hard to not separate counties, townships, different municipalities, and splitting them all up. But where possible, to keep them together. Again, I think all of that just makes for sound and smart government. And that's what we have, that's the message that we have told over and over to our businesses. Representative Huffman came to our Government Affairs Steering Committee, and that's a gathering of about 40 different business representatives that are there to get a feel for the issue. We listen to everything, and then they make a recommendation to our board of directors. And our board of directors voted unanimously to support issue 1. I think we all see this. This has been an issue that's been kicked around for a number of years, and it's one that I think people have gotten to the point where it's like, there's something that needs to be done. This is a good solution, I think, created in a great process, in a great manner, and so I think we found the right way to go about it. Now it's just getting the issue passed. Thanks.
I'm wondering how turnout might factor into this. This is probably going to